Hey, this is Tim with on New Age FM podcast, and we're speaking with Webster. How's things?
Hey, Tim, I'm good. Thanks. How you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just been working on this show
Yeah.
and doing normal work as well, since this is not my everyday job. So hopefully in
Yep.
the future it'll be my day job. So be easier than
Yes.
having to go and do other work. So that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Uh,
I don't.
yeah. No, it's good to finally meet you. So, I remember we did a collab on two songs a while back, and that was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's like that would have been like more than 10 years ago now, right?
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
still got the views on YouTube, and still people listen to it. So it's been pretty sweet. So
Oh,
yeah,
I've got to try and find that. It's been a while since I listened.
oh yeah, had some better lyrics and to rap to than me. I was just more a singer and pretty much
Nah,
a
nah, nah,
conduit for the song. So that was
nah,
all good.
nah.
All right. So what can you tell me a little brief history about yourself? We were born and grew up and up to
Yeah.
now, and yeah.
Yeah, so I was born in Malawi, which is this tiny country in Southeast Africa that no one really knows anything about other than Madonna adopted a child from there.
Yeah.
I lived there until I was 3 years old, and then my family moved to England. My parents worked at a hospital there, and we lived there for about 5 years. And then when I was about 8 or 9, we moved to New Zealand, where I spent most of my life. I had probably about 14 years or so in New Zealand. So I did, the remainder of primary school, high school, and half of my university degree in New Zealand before I moved to Australia, where I am now.
Yeah.
Um, in New Zealand, I guess that's where you and I connected, where we linked up. That's where I guess I began what music career. I think I remember being about, I reckon I would have been about 16 years old,
Yeah.
and I went to this African event. I don't know if they still do it in New Zealand, but it was like a Miss Africa event. So it was like all of the Africans in the country came together and they did like this beauty pageant thing, and mixed
Mm.
in with that was this just the arts component of it. So there'd be performances from musicians, and um I saw a performance by Razor Beezer, who he's well, I think he just goes by Razor now.
Yeah.
But I saw a performance by him, and also TK Perazza. Um and I remember just thinking, man, I want to be like them. And so it was funny because pretty much almost after that, I sort of started writing. And initially, I was just sort of writing, not doing anything more of it. But then I linked up with some friends of mine, and we started a bit of a rap group. And this was through high school. We did a couple shows around the country. We put out some tracks. I think we put out a mixtape. I don't even know if it's still around somewhere, but
Yeah.
but anyway, funnily enough, they're all living in Australia too now. So we link up from time to time still. And
Sweet.
then it got to a point where I think I was going to uni. They all lived in Auckland. I was going to uni in Hamilton. So
Mm.
the group sort of started to break down. Um, I went off and did my own thing. Two of the group members who were brothers sort of carried on doing the group, and then
Mm.
a fourth member went off and started doing his own thing as well. And um, and it's funnily enough, you reminded me that I used to call myself Breezy, which I
Yeah.
hadn't heard that name in such a long time. But anyway, when I moved to Hamilton, I guess I sort of rebranded, and I began, I guess, calling myself Winston Anthony.
Mm.
And with that came a shift in music. I feel like at least when I was breezy, I my music was a bit more on the R&B side rather than the hip hop side. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was a bit more on the R&B side, still with the raps, but a bit more
yeah,
I guess on the R&B side. When I got into Winston Anthony, the way I used to put it was I had some friends who put me through what was basically rap boot camp. And that was basically every summer, every day for one summer. I think it was the summer of 2011, 2012. Every day for that summer, they would put me through like that they would basically take me through freestyling sessions every single day. And the idea was just to get good with cadence, good with flow, good with words. And realistically, it made a huge difference because the next project I put out and so on were just on a whole nother level
yeah,
in terms of where my skill level had gone to. Um, anyway, I did that for a few years. Um, then I moved out to Australia, still doing the rap thing. And I think, when did I move to Australia? I moved to Australia in 2013.
yeah.
Um, actually, I moved to Australia 10 years ago next week. Um,
Wow.
and so I did the rap thing here for another few years. Um, had a hip hop blog out here, had an artist management agency where I think I had about 4 or 5 artists under my wing. Um, was doing the whole songwriting thing, was doing the tour management thing. Um, and then somewhere along the way, I remember I got a really good opportunity to sort of have my next project almost plastered all over Spotify.
Yeah,
And I got offered that opportunity, and half of me was really excited because this is sort of what I'd worked with for 10 years, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then the other half of me, so I should backtrack for a second. My music had gotten to a point where my most famous songs, or my most listened to songs, were songs that required me to, how should I put it, to be more vulgar.
no, yeah, yeah,
Yep. And I got to a point where I was like, where does this stop?
yeah, yeah,
And long story short is after receiving that offer, I hung up the mic. After over 10 years in the game, I just sort of decided, you know what's not for me. Coinciding with that was my now wife, then girlfriend. She grew up in a Christian household. I was not. I was like the furthest thing from Christian at this point. And yeah, like yeah, it was bad. But I was the furthest thing from Christian at this point. Um, doing a whole myriad of things that I perhaps shouldn't have been doing.
yeah,
Um, and my wife says to me, my then girlfriend, she says to me, look, if we're going to be serious, you need to find Jesus. Now, you see, I'd grown up in a Catholic household, so I was like, I know God. Um, but anyway, she says to me, you need to find Jesus. So I like half-heartedly go on this mission to like find Jesus.
yeah,
um, and I remember one night, this is like sort of around the time that I'd quit. I can't remember whether it was before or just after. Um, but I remember I was reviewing the Stormzy album. So the blog that I ran, we'd actually become really successful here in Melbourne, to the point where we were getting exclusive access into a lot of shows. And so I had recently spoken to the Stormzy tour people, and I'd got us exclusive access into the show to cover the show for the website. And
yeah,
so anyway, this was coinciding with his album Gang Signs and Prayer. And so I was reviewing his album, and in the process of reviewing, so my process with reviewing albums was I'd never check out the track beforehand. My idea was
yeah,
that this way I could be completely unbiased, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's a
Just
complete blind
listen to it
listen.
cold. Yeah,
Yep, yep. Um, and So I'm listening cold, and halfway through, right? And I remember like I wasn't in a good place at this time. And I sort of said this like half-hearted prayer, like, God, if you're real, show yourself. And I'm listening through. And as I'm listening through, halfway through the album, there's a song called Blinded by Your Grace. And I was shook. Like by this point, like if I'm being honest, I was faded. Like
Yeah,
I was
yeah, yeah,
legit faded. And so I'm like, what? Like, this is Stormzy. And at this point, I break my rule. I look at the track list because I'm just like, what is a worship song doing on gang signs and prayer? Like, I mean, yeah, sure, it's called prayer, but like this is Stormzy.
yeah,
And so I get completely captivated by this song. There was a part one and part two, and I'm playing these both all night. And that sort of, I guess, kickstarted the real search for God because I was like, whoa, that was weird.
yeah,
I asked God, show yourself, and he met me with the Stormzy song, of all
yeah, yeah,
things. Um, and so anyway, I sort of I'd quit music. So at this point now, I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? I am finishing my law degree, to which I finished, and well, yeah, finished again by the grace of God. But anyway, halfway through, working through my law degree, I then walk into a church and find Jesus. Like that's a whole other story, but
mm,
that I don't know if we got time for. But I find Jesus. And what was crazy is that at this time as well, I was pretty much going to meet my wife's parents for the first time in a year, and I needed to not be a uni student. I needed to be able to go to them and be like, look, I can look after your daughter, sort of thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I had 2 years worth of uni left. And somehow I have no idea how, but God, and bear in mind, I didn't go to uni, I didn't do summer school, I didn't do any of those summer units, but somehow God took a year off my degree. I
yeah,
passed with
yeah,
flying colors, and I managed to do 2 years in 1 year. I have no idea how to this day, but it happened. Um,
yeah,
and so anyway, that all works out. Long story short, we get married. Funnily enough, so after I found Jesus, um, this thing happened. As I've just said, I spent 10 years in the music industry. Hip hop was
yeah,
like it was like my lifeblood.
yeah, yeah.
um,
Your bread and butter.
exactly. And then I get to the point where I find my faith, and this weird thing happens where for 3 years I could not listen to hip hop. Like
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. It was weird. And I tried. Like I
yeah,
genuinely tried. And I've only sort of really started listening again recently. Different Christian hip hop now more so.
yeah,
But I went through that journey of like, I guess having to have that pruned out of my life, before I could have it reintroduced, in a different way. And yeah, and then so now I'm no longer breezy or Winston Anthony. I'm Webster. I'm a lawyer. I run an online ministry called Gospel Grounded,
yeah.
where we talk about faith and faith based music and things like that. And yeah, that's me.
Nice. No, that's really good. I mean, I sort of understand because the same with me. With I used to listen to like Eminem and all those ones, but then I
Yeah,
got caught up with one day I was just listening to the radio up in Central Otago, and
yeah,
I heard Owl City's Fireflies, and it
yeah.
actually play on the radio, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And then I just started listening more and more, and then found
Mm.
out that he's actually a Christian singer. So I was like, well, this is really cool. So, but
Yeah,
after that, I just stopped. I stopped listening to all those sorts of albums and just stuck with listening to him mainly.
yeah,
But it does sound like when you listen to rap and hip hop these days, it's really weird. But it's yeah, it all comes back to your belief system, and if you if you try and listen to a song that's non-Christian, your other part of you is just saying, no, don't do that. So that's what happened to me, and I was like, okay, I'll just stick with that. And
Yep.
with music, I started off with like I used to like swear in some of my songs, and then it got to the point where I was like, this is not who I am. I need to sing songs that are within both non-Christian and Christian, but can be uh, just be a one whole thing collabed together. And
Yeah.
that's what I've done. I just do make music for because I love doing it, and
Yeah.
for a while I actually did stop making music for a while because I had to
Mm.
work, I had to save money and all that.
Yep.
But now being able to do with doing work and doing work part time and doing this, it's given
Mm.
me more free time to actually make songs, and so that's what I've got into. And
Yeah.
yeah, so actually um,
Yeah.
make music and write new lyrics. So
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. But now I've got troubles with my iMac, so now I have to use my MacBook to make music. So it's a bit up in the
Uh,
air, but I'll get there in the end. But yeah, no, everything's going really good. So
no,
yeah,
that's awesome. I think that's another thing, right? So I think I was having a conversation with a friend a little while ago, and we are saying how he was asking me would I ever get back into music, and my answer is at the moment no, right? Like
yeah,
I don't think that's something that's on the horizon for me. However, I have sat there at times and thought, man, I wish like I'd been Christian back then because I can just imagine the songs I would have written.
yeah, yeah,
um, but you know, if God calls me back into the music industry in one way or another, then I'd consider it. But yeah, look, for me, if anything, the only way that I could see myself getting back into the industry would be in a, I guess, in an advisory role to Christian artists. Because I like that. That's the thing, right? God uses what we learned in our, I guess, past lives,
yeah.
and he can use them for His purposes.
Mm.
And yeah, but now that's awesome that you're still making music, that your writer's block has been released.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was an utter pain. I would just try to think of a song, like I listen to an instrumental, try and think of words, and it just does not go through, and it just annoyed me a lot. And but now um with the writer's block being gone, it's much better, easy flow. And I mean, with you being a Christian now, you'd be able to do like gospel music. You could do and you could still make instrumental beats and either sell them or put them on YouTube for free. So
I
it
could.
just depends on what your heart. I mean, for me, music is part of my life with God, um as well as just in life, because I was born and raised into a musical family,
Yeah.
musical Christian family at that. So
Mm.
it you just have to sort of find that middle ground to be able to go, all right, I can do this, but I can't do this and this, and that's the way to do it. So that's what
Mm.
I can think of anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, like, look, like, if I'm being honest, I don't, at this point in my life, I wouldn't want to go back into the music industry.
yeah,
If I did, it would be in a Christian space.
yeah,
Um, but I think where God has brought me to at this point in my life is I'm right where He wants me to be. Using He has me using those gifts He's given me in different ways, right? Like it's
mm,
funny. I sort of sometimes I say to people, it's funny how when I when he sort of pulled me out of the music industry, I sold all of my music gear. I sold my mic, I sold my interface, everything. Like cleared my computer of all music software and everything, um, just for him 5 years later to be like, yeah, okay, cool. Now I need you to go buy another mic. I need you to go set up all the software again so that you can set up this like platform where you speak for me now. And
Yeah.
it's like cool, but like would have been nice if I didn't have if you told me that a while ago. I could have just
Yeah.
packed it all up.
Could have just given me a heads up, would have been great.
Yeah, nah, but it's cool. I think he has me using my gifts in a way that he wants me to use them at this point in my life. And look, I think things are good. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about actually being part of the church band and actually do either the vocals or any instruments?
Have considered it. It's not where I like I know that, and this is I guess hard for some people to understand because they know me as someone who was in the music industry for so long.
Yeah,
Um, but like I just don't feel a pull to do music in that way, if that makes sense. And don't get me wrong, like I still love music, like
yeah,
especially worship music. So like the idea of, joining a church band would be awesome. But
yeah,
I just don't feel called to do that. I don't feel I feel as though in this season God is calling me to use my talents in other ways,
yeah, yeah.
and use my voice in other ways, right? So
Mm.
I still speak through a microphone, right? So although I hung up the mic, I picked it up again in a different format,
Yeah,
if you will.
yeah, yeah,
I still release things on Spotify. It's not songs anymore, but it's podcast episodes, right?
yeah,
Um, and so I think, sorry, you might hear my dog in the background scratching. um, but um, but yeah, so I still do use my gifts in some way. It's just not necessarily through. It's not necessarily on top of the beat.
yeah, yeah. So, what kind of Christian music do you listen to these days? What bands have caught your attention and have pulled you into their circle, so to speak?
Yeah. Look, I'm a big Christian hip hop fan. Like I said, I couldn't listen to hip hop for 3 years, and almost thankfully when by the time I could listen to hip hop again, Christian hip hop had risen to a level that I don't think it was ever at before. Like right now, if you search like artists like Alex John, Caleb Gordon, um, Easy, sorry, not Easy, KB. He has a song called Easy.
Yeah,
KB, Lecrae. These artists, sonically, they're on the level of your mainstream music, if not better, right?
yeah,
So the way I always like to put it is that they're sonically sound and gospel grounded,
yeah, yeah,
which is just awesome. Then if we're talking worship bands, I guess you've got your like typical Hillsong, your Elevation, all of that.
yeah.
And then actually there's this band, what's they called? Uh I want to say they're called like Mercy Worship or something. I found them recently, and my goodness, like these guys like bring heaven,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
bring heaven down sort of thing. That's yeah, but these days I'm really into my Christian music, really into really most Christian, almost any genre.
Yeah,
There's even a couple of like I guess what you'd call like chill Christian tracks.
yeah.
Trying to think. I don't have like my playlists in front of me right now, but I'm trying to think of some.
Have you
Um,
listened to Toby Mac?
I have listened to Toby Mac. Uh,
What
my
about DC
apologies.
Talk?
No, I haven't listened to DC Talk.
DC Talk is really
What are
good.
they like? What do they sort
Um,
of do?
they're a Christian. they do a song called Jesus is Just All Right. That's a
Okay.
really good song.
Yeah.
There's also another rapper who lived in New Zealand called Rapturakis. He's
Okay.
a Christian rapper. He performed at the Parachute Festival,
Just enough. Oh yeah. Sorry, give me
and
2 seconds.
that's right.
Sorry, my man.
That's right. Yeah, no, yeah, so those bands are really good. I'm just trying to think. Parachute band's really good as well, than New Zealand.
Yeah,
Um,
I listened to a bit of Parachute.
yeah, I mean, even Brooke Fraser, she used to be an editor on Soul Purpose magazine, which is a
Yeah.
Christian
She
magazine,
she's
and now
she's
she's
still doing her thing. Yeah, Brooke
yeah, yeah,
Ligertwood now.
yeah, yeah.
She's actually got a new album dropping soon called
Oh,
8.
nice.
Yeah, Seven was great. Her last
Yeah,
album was amazing. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Brooke.
yeah, yeah. She actually did a small piece on me doing my music, and I was going to be performing it. I think it was Parachute '06.
Oh
So that was
wow.
a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
so that was pretty
Well,
cool. And yeah, the actually I just recently listened to Elevation, what was the song called? Praises. And
praises.
I think that was
Yeah,
Elevation. As far as I'm aware, it's a
yeah,
really catchy song.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, like they put out some really cool music. Maverick City as well. I forgot to name that they're a dope Christian band.
yeah.
Uh, um, and yeah, I think Christian music in general has just come such a long way. Um, from I guess before I was Christian, when I was a kid with Christian friends who would try to like suggest Christian music to me, and it was just like, if I'm being honest, without putting these artists down, it was just corny. It was just like
Yeah.
a lot of it was just too corny. And it didn't sound good sonically a lot. And bear in mind that
Yeah.
that comes down to budget, right? Like
Yeah.
secular artists
Yeah.
just have ridiculous budgets.
Yeah.
But now I think maybe with the evolution of technology, Christian artists are able to put out amazing music, which I
Oh
think is
yeah.
helping. It's helping the faith grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So what are your thoughts on the future of Christian music?
Look, I think Christian music is in a place now where, um, because it's gotten so good sonically,
Yeah.
it's reached a point where artists are really going to have two options. So I'd say previously Christian artists had to make a choice, whether or not they were going to do overtly Christian music or covert Christian music, right?
Yeah.
So either Christian music that openly speaks about Jesus or like hidden lyrics. Now I
Yeah.
think they're reaching a point where they can be overt and it's entirely fine. Um, Songwriting has gotten better. Sonically, it's gotten better. And more so now, I think there's an audience for it, right? Like there's a huge audience for Christian musicians to I guess sort of be in their faith.
Hmm.
There's a whole new generation of musician people music audiences who actually want that boldness. They want to hear that boldness. I that's one thing I sort of never expected when I became a Christian was to still be able to not only enjoy music, but enjoy music with friends in the same way that I used to, if not more now, than I used to, right? Like I still have conversations with friends about the intricacies of music. Like, oh my gosh, did you catch that line? You know, like back, you know how like back in the day, like people listening to, I don't know if they do it now, but the secular hip hop, they'd like almost like research the lyrics, like because you're wanting to like catch catch these like little
Yeah.
throwaway lines. You know, that entering the Christian music genre. And I think that that's just such a beautiful thing and a testament to what God is doing through these Christian musicians right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's really true. All right, well, I think we're nearly out of time, but
I
thank you
think
very
so.
much for being on the podcast, and look forward to seeing what God has installed for you, and be able to chat later on through the years to come, and just do a follow up and just go from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
No,
right,
thank you for having me, man. It's been my blessing and my honor.
thank you very much. All right,
All right.
thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Bye.